चलो भाई काम वो मुसलमान था अरे दादा नहीं मरो मुसलमान कैसे लड़ेंगे कपड़े ये चलो वो चलो भाई चलो चलो यार चलो नहीं है रात बैठ नहीं है अल्लाह अकबर अल्लाह अकबर अल्लाह अकबर अल्लाह अकबर
I'm a Shia, a Muslim minority sect in Pakistan. The extremists were hunting us down block by block.
The dominant Sunni and the smaller Shia sect within Islam have transformed large parts of Karachi into a virtual battleground. The latest round of sectarian violence began last Saturday when Sunni extremists burst into two Shiite mosques and gunned down 20 worshippers.
My uncle was gunned down at his house. It was the mid-90s. And at that time, this was our prime minister. A corrupt, incompetent despot who couldn't care less about stabilizing the country as long as he was making his money. And that was the problem with everyone we had voted into office. No one really did care about protecting us. I felt doomed. Then one day, this happened.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। पाकिस्तान की न्यारी वक्त के मुताबिक रात के 9 बज चुके हैं। पहले आम खबरों का खुलासा। वज़ीर
My fellow Pakistanis, our economy has crumbled. Our credibility is lost. State institutions lie demolished. We have hit rock bottom. Revolutionary steps are needed to put Pakistan back on track. Therefore, I chose to save the nation. I have faith in the destiny of this nation. We have no choice but to rise, and rise we will, Insha'Allah.
In 1999, General Pervez Musharraf seized control of Pakistan in a military coup. I was 19 years old. For the next 8 years, he controlled our army, our nuclear arsenal, and our country of over 180 million Muslims. Those were great times. He was a liberal. He turned the economy around. And he even cracked down on religious extremism, and that meant everything to me. I felt safe. But as with most dictators, things have a way of coming undone.
मुशर्रफ का टाइम पूरा हो गया है, अब चला जाए। अवाम को फैसला करने दो, पाकिस्तान का क्या होगा।
And now we're back to democracy. I wonder what it has in store for me this time. It was 2010, and all of our old problems had returned. Our economy was in shambles. Instability was back, and religious violence was worse than ever. Just this year alone, terrorism had claimed 7,000 lives. Everything from bazaars to elementary schools, even nuclear power plants had been attacked. One power plant was only 15 miles from my home.
This was the moment local television caught the bomb blast. Panics clear as ambulances rushed to the scene. Bombs were spaced within half hour of each other. The first bomb has been said to be hidden away in a street next to the headquarters.
It enraged me when others would decide how Muslim I was or wasn't. But more than feeling angry, I was scared. I was a religious minority. I felt like I had a target on my back. These religious fanatics had ravaged my country.
Cinemas have been targeted during the violence, with at least 6 around the country burnt to the ground.
So we're at Nishat Cinema right now. I mean, you can see a lot of the destruction behind me. This is an eclectic cinema. It showed films from Pakistan, from India, and also from Hollywood. Anyway, they burnt this down. They didn't want foreign movies coming here. They didn't want activities they deemed as un-Islamic. While we were suffering, our president was in hiding. He was scared too. I miss the days of Musharraf. How was it that he was able to keep this country from imploding? Coincidentally, I would get the chance to find out. A buddy of mine is Musharraf's nephew, and he arranged for me to meet Musharraf in Dubai, where he was living in self-exile. I was allowed to bring a camera and nothing else. No fancy sound equipment, no crew. Musharraf hadn't survived 11 assassination attempts by being relaxed about security. So, sir, can you tell us, Abhi, where are we right now?
We are in Southridge, Dubai. And this is block number 6 in which I live. We are in downtown Dubai. तुम पूछोगे तो कुछ या?
आप बस उठा लें और बस कैमरा को दिखा दें.
नहीं तुम अगर पूछो ना कि what is this I see अगर फिर मैं बताता हूँ.
Could you please tell us what that Time magazine cover is? Show it to us.
Yeah, well, this is the Time magazine of 22nd July 2002. And I came on the cover and my job was declared the world's toughest job. So since then my wife actually framed this and put it here. So one has gone through a lot of tough times in the past.
Would you agree that your job was indeed one of the world's toughest jobs?
Well, yes, indeed. It was a happening place. Pakistan was a happening place. There was never a dull moment, as I keep saying. Even now, I think it's the happening place, and there is never a dull moment in Pakistan.
Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, Dr. Mahathir, Fidel Castro, Colonel Gaddafi, and Bill Gates.
हाँ जी, आने अस्सलाम वालेकुम. ये मो साहब भी आए हैं. मो, इनको मो कहते हैं. मो, इनका नाम है मो.
इनका नाम मो है.
कल मिले थे मोहम्मद अली है, लेकिन निकनेम मो.
नाम मोहम्मद अली है.
अच्छा.
लेकिन मो कहते हैं.
अच्छा, तुमने बताया मो की सिग्निफिकेंस.
हाँ.
मो किसे कहते हो?
हाँ, वो my younger brother. I used to call him मो. मोटा था बहुत. तो उसको मैं मो कहता था.
तो सर आप मुझे बता रहे थे कि मिलिट्री टेक ओवर हुआ था, उसके बारे में।
When it comes to difficult situation, उसका किसी का पता नहीं होता वो कैसे react करेगा, how good he will be, ये peace time में नहीं पता होता उसका।
हाँ, that's true.
Difficult time जैसे आजकल difficult time है ना, आर्मी के ऊपर प्रेशर होता है हमेशा, सब पहुंच जाते हैं, बचाओ मुल्क को बचाओ, ये
हाँ
क्या करें। That is the dilemma. पाकिस्तान का तो डायलेमा ये है, जब भी मैं कहता हूँ ये डेमोक्रेसी को सस्टेनेबल बनाने के लिए आर्मी का कुछ रोल होना चाहिए, सो दैट इट इन्फ्लुएंसेस। बैड गवर्नेंस हो रही है तो आर्मी क्या करे, कुछ नहीं कर सकते, कोई रोल ही नहीं है।
लेकिन सर वो जो कहते हैं कि डेमोक्रेसी इज समथिंग दैट कैन इवॉल्व एंड ग्रो, हाँ ज़रूर पब्लिक जो है कोई बेकार लोगों को इलेक्ट करेगी and then they themselves will at least learn, जैसे ट्रेनिंग होती है।
देखो, it is related to governance
जी
and threats. We don't have any time for experimentation. There is no room for experimentation in Pakistan. There are centrifugal forces internal. ये तमाम जो diversities हैं हमारी, वो ही क्रिएट करती हैं सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्सेस टू destabilize the country internally, breaking it.
Religious strife brought Pakistan's commercial capital Karachi to a virtual standstill. Paramilitary forces had to be sent in to control the situation, and a state of emergency was declared.
Fear has kept most people indoors.
My parents did their best to keep me sheltered from all the violence. You could say that I lived in a bubble.
Mo finally meets someone.
Our school had guards and bomb shelters. It was a big target for terrorism. We didn't even think about how things would be great if our country got safer. We just accepted it and built our own little castle. But outside these walls, attacks against minorities like me were getting worse and worse. His Highness Nawaz Sharif, our democratically elected Prime Minister, was more concerned about keeping his throne. So he arrested opposition leaders.
Member of Parliament Asif Ali Zardari has been incarcerated on orders of the government.
He threatened the Chief Justice.
The attempts were made on my life
and attacked our Supreme Court. He even pandered to the extreme right wing. They were his biggest supporters.
आपकी मुंतखब करदा कौमी असेंबली को शरीयत बिल मंजूर करने की सादत बख्शी, कुरान और सुन्नत को सुप्रीम लॉ बनाने की दरीना आरज़ू पूरी हो रही है.
Finally, to ensure that he stayed in office and not get thrown out in some military coup, he passed over the most qualified generals when appointing a new army chief. He chose someone he felt he could trust, a little-known general named Pervez Musharraf. His plan backfired.
An air of normality on the streets of Pakistan today, even celebration, as news of the military takeover spread across the country.
Musharraf had Nawaz Sharif arrested, exiled to Saudi Arabia, and banned him from participating in Pakistani politics for life. We had lived through 3 other military dictators, but this new one was special.
You call yourself the chief executive. Why is that?
It's the chief executive. It's a very palatable name instead of a chief martial law administrator, which is rather draconian in concept and in name. I wanted to give it a civil facade.
He pushed for a free press, pushed for minority protection, but most importantly, he cracked down on religious extremism. Going around town was safe again. And when he turned our economy around, everyone began to love him.
The root causes of terrorism are socio-economic issues. Merely taking military action against terrorists is not the answer. If you want to defeat terrorism, it will take the long-term strategy, education, poverty alleviation, economic development of the country.
But then overnight, everything changed.
Good evening. In our hour of need, just after the terrorist attacks on September the 11th, President Musharraf quickly condemned the evildoers. Pakistan is a strong ally. President Musharraf is a strong leader, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me right away say that Pakistan has taken a considered decision to be a part of the coalition, to be with the United States, to fight terrorism in all its forms, wherever it exists. From 1999 to 2001, in this stage, I thought I'll reform the entire system. But that 3-year period, unfortunately, got interrupted through 9/11. I couldn't finish what I started. And because of this, Pakistan is in dire straits. A political answer has to be found to performing well. We cannot be squabbling among ourselves.
Sir, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, nothing at all.
Thank you so much, sir. That was excellent.
Thank you very much.
An American drone attack killed 30 civilians in a remote part of Pakistan. Several tribal villages have been pounded to rubble by U.S. drones. The government has chosen to remain silent, not to disturb Pakistani-U.S. relations.
At least 31 people were killed in a suicide bombing in a busy market in Karachi. The Taliban take full responsibility for the attack, and they say it was in retaliation to American unmanned drone attacks.
Our president wasn't able to stop the Americans, nor was he able to stop the Taliban. For ordinary Pakistanis, we were getting it from both sides. Clearly, we needed a new government. Even though elections were still 3 years away, campaigning was in full swing. Everyone claimed to be our knight in shining armor. But I only trusted one guy to do the job.
मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि इस मकाम पे मैं ये आपसे खिताब कर रहा हूँ। मैं जो आ रहा हूँ पाकिस्तान वापस इलेक्शन की तरफ हम बढ़ाए, वो इसलिए आ रहा हूँ क्योंकि मैं आप लोगों के लिए आ रहा हूँ, पाकिस्तानी अवाम के लिए आ रहा हूँ, पाकिस्तान के लिए आ रहा हूँ।
I wanted him to come back to power. And if he was doing it the right way by running for office, bonus points. But he had a difficult road ahead. This was a former dictator running for political office. I was surprised that he would even try. I wanted to see who he was up against. So I began with sussing out the competition, and my first stop was Lahore, where I met this guy.
दुआएं देता है वतन का हर गरीब, हमारे सबके दिलों की धड़कन नवाज शरीफ।
एक वो जमाना था, नवाज शरीफ का पीएमएलएन का जमाना था, अमन था, सुकून था, तरक्की थी, खुशहाली थी। धमाके सुने थे आपने मुल्क में? कभी दहशतगर्दी सुनी थी आपने? एक दफा फिर वो वक्त आएगा। शर्त यह है कि आपने नवाज शरीफ का साथ देना है, आपने नवाज शरीफ का साथ देना है।
Next up was Imran Khan. He had won us our only Cricket World Cup in 1992. And for my parents' generation, he was considered the sexiest man alive. Of all the candidates, he had the least political experience. But he had the fastest growing support base.
Everyone agrees there should be no terrorism. This country is sinking under terrorism. But the last thing we want is the Americans to conduct these drone attacks which are causing more terrorism. It's totally counterproductive.
Sir, if militancy cannot be stopped through military action, then what is the solution you suggest?
Pull ourselves out of this suicidal war on terror. You need civilians to deal with them, and truth and reconciliation is the only way out of this war.
I could see his appeal. He was optimistic, and his solutions were peaceful. At the same time, though, was he being a bit too naive? I mean, was reconciliation with the Taliban even a possibility?
कितने तालिबान स्टूडेंट्स पढ़ते हैं?
4-5 के दरमियान है निकलने वाले डिबेट होते हैं 1,500 तालिबान देखते हैं कि हम पर तो ड्रोन हमले हो रहे हैं, वो देखते हैं कि एक एक बम से 70-80 के छींतरे उड़ गए, किसी का बाप, किसी का बेटा, किसी का बच्चा मासूम। आए दिन उसकी बमबारी से वो मैदान सब लाशों से भर जाते हैं। अब वो कहते हैं हमारा बस नहीं चलता है तो यही खुफिया काम करेंगे, अपने आप को उड़ा देंगे। वो इंतकाम में करते हैं, वो कहते हैं पूरे शहर को जला दूँ, उड़ा दूँ कि इनको तकलीफ़ हो जाए।
लेकिन जैसे आप देखें यहाँ पे इतने संगीन नोयत के अटैक्स हुए थे पूरे पाकिस्तान में, मुसलमान खुद उसमें मारे गए हैं, तो ये क्यों हो रहा है?
वो उनको मुसलमान नहीं समझते, वे कहते हैं ये काफिर के साथ खड़े हैं और ये बेगैरत बुज़दिल अपने इस्लामी ममालिक के तहफ़्फ़ुज़ात और मफादात को नहीं देखते हैं। इनको अमेरिका का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ अजीज़ है, तो खुदा ने कहा कि जो काफिर के साथ खड़ा होगा तो वो काफिरों में से होगा। इस वक्त पूरी उम्मत को परेशानी है, बिलखुसूस पाकिस्तान आफात और बलियात में घिरा हुआ है और सबका टारगेट हमारे ये मरकज है इस्लाम का। ये जिहाद है और इस मुल्क का बचाना तमाम मुसलमानों का फर्ज होगा।
When I was learning the Quran as a child, one lesson I was taught was that killing one human was like killing all of humanity. But according to this man, I either join in his jihad or I was a non-Muslim and fair game as collateral damage. जी आप मुझे
तो मौवे मुकद्दमा की जांच सारा ढेर खलक नहीं करा गलत नशी करा ये तो
टोल गली दिया हुई।
Drone attacks were cruel and had killed indiscriminately. But that was no excuse for this fanatic to encourage the same.
कैसी है चिकन?
Very good.
चाय लोगे कॉफ़ी?
मैं कॉफ़ी।
कॉफ़ी बना दो, कॉफ़ी दो।
ठीक है सर।
ये क्या तस्वीर है यार, ये बोट के अंदर कितने घुसे हुए और ये क्या कर रहे हैं, ये पुश कर रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं यार? किम जोंग उन, आई डोंट नो व्हाट इज द आइडिया, इतने बड़े लेक में इतनी ये स्टूपिड सी बोट में इतने लोग क्यों घुस रहे? व्हाट इज दिस? President of North Korea trying to prove that he is very brave. Aja. Bombs kill 3 in KB. It is terrible. Killing of all minorities is most regrettable, and I very strongly condemn it. These people who are doing this have taken upon themselves. They think that they have the right interpretation of Islam. The other is, having judged wrongly that they are right, they want to impose this judgment by force on others. If I was born in any other religion, I would have carried on in that religion. I wouldn't have converted to Islam. I was born a Muslim, therefore I am continuing Muslim. Nobody changes religious views with force.
Exactly what I wanted to hear. I just couldn't believe that he said it. Saying this publicly could end your political career in Pakistan.
Hi. Yeah. This is something that I see every morning. I want to see what is the progress, what is the new fans. And I must say, look at the fans, it has gone to 137,247. Look at this. We are waiting. Please, you will come and command presidentship. I am very big fan of you. You have a great personality. They say, we love you, and when are you coming back? You must come back. You must save the country, etc.
So are you confident about your chances?
Well, 137,000 is excellent, but I'm not naive that I should take it that this means that the whole country wants me back.
In fact, back home, many were gunning for Musharraf's blood.
परवेज़ मुशर्रफ जिसने वतन अजीज़ को एक फ़ोन कॉल पर ढेर होकर अमेरिका के कदमों में नचावर कर दिया, इस मुल्क को आगो खून में नहलाया, वो एक बार फिर इस कौम की आंखों में धूल झोंकने के लिए हाथ पाँव मार रहा है कि मजलूम मुसलमानों, तहरीक तालिबान पाकिस्तान तारीख़ इंसानी के इस बड़े फिरौन से निमटने के लिए इंशाअल्लाह पूरी तरह तैयार है,
जिसमें फिदायीन, स्नाइपर टीम, स्पेशल असॉल्ट टीम और क्लोज कम्बैट टीम शामिल हैं। परवेज़ मुशर्रफ, you can see this death squad around me. We want you to surrender yourself to us. Otherwise, we will hit you from where you would never reckon.
These guys weren't guerrilla warriors hiding out in some cave. They were in the cities, 5 minutes from our Capitol buildings, having open rallies. As a member of the coalition against terror, technically we were supposed to be rounding these guys up and sending them to Guantanamo Bay. Our government preferred to turn a blind eye, and there was a reason for it. At one point, we didn't see these guys as terrorists. We saw them as our heroes.
मैं मुजाहिद बन गया हूँ।
अपने खुदा पे पूरा भरोसा था।
Move an inch and I'll blow your brains off.
Kids my age suddenly wanted to go and fight jihad. It seemed cool.
This is the new member, Mohammed.
These guys were our heroes because they were destroying our enemy, India. We split from India in 1947, and since then we have been fighting over our borders. We have fought 3 wars, and we have lost every single time. Finally, in the 90s, Pakistan found a novel way to make India pay. Our army began supporting Islamic militant groups who would go wage jihad against India.
During the 1990s, the Pakistan military had great success with supporting Islamic militant groups. They considered that these people were an effective tool of covert military policy to be used against India or Pakistan's other enemies.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
After 2001, there was American pressure on Pakistani military to clamp down on these militant groups and break ties with jihadist militancy.
After 9/11, would the United States have actually attacked Pakistan if President Musharraf had not agreed to cooperate with the war on terrorism? President Musharraf, he says the United States was threatening to bomb his country back into the Stone Age.
I would like to, I'm launching my book on the 25th, and I am honor bound to Simon & Schuster not to comment on the book before that date. So,
In other words, buy the book.
Musharraf failed to explain to his own people why he was cooperating with the US and why he engaged in these military operations in the tribal belt. That was the spark, really, that has fanned the flames of militancy here in Pakistan, emboldening these militant groups to take on the state, and that really lit a fire that's still burning today.
जी वो मैं असल में एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री बना रहा हूँ. I've been following PM sir for the last 3 years.
This is Mohammed Ali, sorry. He is following me around in the last 4 years or 5 years or more.
साबिक सदर जनरल रिटायर्ड परवेज मुशर्रफ साहब, हमारी खुसूसी गुफ्तगू जारी है कि हम अपने रिपोर्टर्स को शामिल करेंगे प्रोग्राम में जिनके साथ पब्लिक मौजूद है और वो आपसे सवाल पूछेंगे. जी समरा.
मेरा मुशर्रफ साहब से ये क्वेश्चन है कि उसने अपने पिछले दौर इक़्तिदार में 10 साल जो गुजारा है, अवाम को सिवाय दहशतगर्दी के अमरीकी गुलामी के अलावा क्या दिया है. तो मैं ये क्वेश्चन है कि वो अब इस बार आ रहे हैं तो अवाम को क्या पेश करेंगे कि मैंने क्या काम किया है, मुझे वोट दें.
मैं आपको ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि अगर मैं नहीं होता तो आप वहां बैठे हैं ना फ्रंटियर में, आपके ऊपर जो होना था वो मैं आपको क्या बताऊं. अभी आप सोच रखते हैं अमेरिका और हिंदुस्तान मिलकर हमें कुचलते हुए जाते और उधर जाना था उन्होंने. तो ये इसकी समझ होनी चाहिए कि अगर मैं ये नहीं करता जो मैंने फैसले किए 2001 में, तो आपको उसके बदले में क्या मिलना था, इसके बारे में जरा सोचें. Ill-educated educated. हमारे लोग हैं generally ill-educated and not properly informed. मुझे चर्चिल का एक और जोक याद आ रहा है. Churchill was known to be a very हाजिर जवाब man. Right. And he used to take a long time in the bathroom, toilet. तो टॉयलेट में गुजावा निकल नहीं रहा था, तो some lord came, उनका जो बटलर था उसे कहा कि tell the prime minister that I am waiting. So the butler goes and knocks at the bathroom door. He is waiting since long. तो अंदर से आवाज़ आई कि I can deal with only with one shit at a time.
परवेज मुशर्रफ का पैगाम सबसे पहले पाकिस्तान. आइए ऑल पाकिस्तान मुस्लिम लीग का साथ दीजिए.
ये 30 सेकंड का ये सबसे ये ऐसा है जिस पर सब झूमने लगते हैं.
मेहनत की पर औलाद हुई पर मुस्तकबिल न दे सके. आवाज उठाई पर खामोशी छाई, क्योंकि हम दुआएं करते रहे पर कोशिश नहीं. उठ खड़े हो, अपनी औलाद के लिए एक रोशन मुस्तकबिल छोड़ जाओ. आवाज बुलंद करो और एक पाकिस्तान के लिए ADML का साथ दो. सबसे पहले पाकिस्तान.
और ये हर चैनल पे आएगा.
लोकल चैनल्स पे, केबल चैनल. ये जो है वो अभी काफी हो रहा है, लेकिन शायद इससे भी ज्यादा होना चाहिए.
हाँ नहीं, अगेन वही आगे हम वापस जो होना चाहिए. जी देखिए ये शी इज सिटिंग हियर राइट हियर. We have to count कर रहे हैं ये ना.
Musharraf's team scrambled to communicate a new and improved Musharraf, one that would convince more than just his Facebook followers. Back home, his arch rival was waiting to settle the score.
हमारी जमहूरी हुकूमत को रुखसत करके मार्शल लॉ नाफिज कर दिया गया. मुशर्रफ 9 बरस तक मुल्क को कौम की तकदीर से खेलता रहा. आइन को बार बार काउंट करे रोंदा जाता रहा. इससे बड़ी गद्दारी क्यों होती है मुल्क को कौम के साथ? ऐसा अब नहीं होने दिया जाएगा. मुशर्रफ पर हाई ट्रेजन मुकदमा चलाने के लिए कार्रवाई की जाएगी.
Musharraf, with the kind of legal challenges he faces, is he really, if he's going to go out and campaign politically, that's a tough call.
Musharraf is a wanted man. Political leaders have been calling for charges of high treason against him, and the Supreme Court has finally ruled that Musharraf will be arrested as soon as he lands on Pakistani soil.
Courts in Punjab have issued an arrest warrant, which I think is bogus, and it's a funny joke. We've organized a protest in favor of General Pervez Musharraf, former president, and the president of APML.
और एक शख्स जिसको आप डिक्टेटर कहते हो, इसी ने लोगों को खुशियां दी, लोगों को आजादी दी.
जनरल साहब के दौर के हुकूमत लोगों को आज भी याद है. ये लोग इसीलिए आज आए हैं. हमारे मुल्क में ज़्यादातर पसमानदगा लोग हैं, नौखानदा लोग हैं. उनको ज़रूरत है परवेज़ मुशर्रफ की.
परवेज़ मुशर्रफ के बारे में आजकल बहुत से सवालात उठाए जा रहे हैं. उनकी सियासत का एजेंडा क्या है, इस पर हम गुफ्तगू करेंगे. और नवाज शरीफ साहब बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने हमें वक्त दिया.
मुशर्रफ साहब का माशाअल्लाह है, तो मुशर्रफ साहब के माशाअल्लाह ने
एक इलेक्टेड वज़ीर आज़म के ऊपर आप जाली केस मेरे ऊपर बनवा दिया, मुल्क से बाहर भेज दिया, जेलों में बंद किया, मुल्क बिकम्स अ लाफिंग स्टॉक बिफोर द होल वर्ल्ड। उनका ट्रायल अब शुरू होना चाहिए।
वो अपना
झूठा।
अभी मैं अपनी पार्टी के साथ
In Pakistan, no government, no elected government has performed for the people and the state, not even once in our history. While the military men, whoever they were, in their period, Pakistan has gained in all socio-economic activity.
Sir, many people do think of you as a dictator, and you're also being charged with treason back home. How are you going to deal with this in your campaign?
Yes, I would like to talk about it. This has been a serious issue all along our history. The question is, as a military man, I took oath on the Constitution of Pakistan. When I take oath on the Constitution of Pakistan, the oath was actually to preserve the state of which this Constitution is a part. Now, if the state is going, and the state is going to be no more, where does this Constitution stand? I think it's just a piece of paper could be thrown in the dustbin.
Hearing this certainly left me with a strange feeling, but then what was I expecting him to say? I had made the decision to look past it before, and it was the right decision.
Yeah. But, I guess.
Religious militancy was becoming a problem in Pakistan, and if you were a minority, that was just too bad. Musharraf was the only leader that I ever had who took steps to reverse this.
So I was moving against militancy in our society, and we met a lot of success. I banned 4 extremist organizations. But then comes 9/11. The ball game changed altogether.
Military forces in Pakistan have started cracking down on the Taliban.
Banning groups and arresting a handful of people wasn't going to cut it anymore. Musharraf was forced to unleash his full military might.
Pakistan's army launched an offensive to try to evict Taliban militants from the valley.
Hundreds of refugees have been streaming out of their homes and seeking shelter in camps. Their homes have been completely destroyed.
किसी से माँ बाप गुम हो गए, किसी से बेटे गुम हो गए. मेरा अपना मियाँ, मेरा बेटा वहाँ रह गया.
Pakistan says that fighting the Taliban here is now a priority, but they've devoted only 30,000 troops.
I don't think it's enough. We've got to look at whether Pakistan ultimately meets our national interests and security goals.
And so Musharraf had to do even more. But this was just making things worse. By 2007, the vast majority of the country had turned against Musharraf and his excessive tactics.
जनरल जो है ये अमेरिका का एक पालतू है. उसने चंद डॉलरों के लिए पाकिस्तान को बेच दिया है. ये काफिरों से जा मिला है और इस्लाम के साथ जंग कर रहा है.
But Musharraf tried to cling to power by any means necessary. And when the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court asked him to resign, he had the judge arrested. He shut down protests, even arresting and detaining activists and political dissidents. Finally, he suspended the Constitution.
इस वक्त पाकिस्तान एक बहुत खतरनाक मोड़ पे पहुंचा हुआ है. मैंने इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर की है.
The Taliban on the extreme right and the Pakistanis on the left agreed on one thing: Musharraf had to go.
मुल्क और कौम के खातिर मैं आज ओहदे से मुस्ताफ़ी होने का फ़ैसला करता हूँ, लेकिन मैं भी इंसान हूँ। हो सकता है कोताहियाँ रास्ते में हुई हों। मुझे उम्मीद है कि ये कौम और अवाम इन कोताहियों को दरगुज़र करेगी।
I was never blind to Musharraf's flaws. Were his tactics excessive? Yes. But like many others, I turned a blind eye because I thought I had a better chance of surviving. Besides, when it came to fighting extremism, I always believed that at least his heart was in the right place.
वो मुझे लग रहा है तुम ये कैमरा गिरा दोगे ना तो ये कैमरा तो तुम्हारा टूट जाएगा, लेकिन अगर किसी के सर पे लैंड किया ना
नहीं पकड़ा,
उसका सर भी टूट जाएगा।
नहीं सर, पकड़ा हो।
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Wow! Camera could be Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and I wish the camera good health and long life.
This was going to be a great year, and I was looking forward to his return. But then there was a change of plan.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden deep inside Pakistan.
Hello. Unfortunately, यहाँ ये Washington आना पड़ रहा है. I'm on my way to Washington. I've been sitting in a train.
It was alleged that Osama bin Laden had been living in Pakistan for the past 5 years, a portion of which was during Musharraf's presidency.
You are really asking people to believe that Osama bin Laden could have spent all this time living right under your noses and nobody would have known about it?
Yes, I'm saying that. And I mean every word of it.
When Osama bin Laden is found less than a mile from a major military compound in a suburb of your capital, it raises some eyebrows.
We can't be sending billions of dollars to these people any longer and having them aid the Taliban. That's insane. That's almost criminal.
Al-Qaeda is stronger. Taliban is stronger. Where did the money go?
It's a very difficult task to convince anyone that there was no complicity. I am going to try to do that.
The timing on the US raid on Osama bin Laden couldn't have been worse for Musharraf. Since rumors of his involvement were everywhere, Musharraf needed to clear his name. He needed to reassure his old friends of his innocence and to get their blessings for his political comeback.
There are aspersions against Pakistan of hiding Osama bin Laden. First of all, is United States against Pakistan or annoyed with the army and ISI because they believe that there was complicity? My view is that there was no complicity, and I would like to say a few words on that. There was negligence, certainly. But that is shame. We are all ashamed. Even I, who have nothing to do with the government now, I'm ashamed of this, that there was this degree of negligence by ISI that we didn't know. I think negligence is pardonable. After all, the CIA was very negligent in 9/11 and 2001. They didn't know 18 people being trained. The CIA, such a big organization, could be sleeping. ISI was also sleeping. I mean, let's leave it at that.
I'm about results. What I heard today he didn't do.
How do you think they received the president, members of Congress and some senators? Why were they being so cold, and you think, what were their accusatory things?
Well, they all feel, many members, that they have $20 billion invested in Pakistan in the last 10 years, and they have nothing to show, and particularly post Osama bin Laden's capture and assassination.
Frankly, here I feel the senators and congressmen are too involved in what we call in the army in minor tactics. That we gave you 10 billion, tell us what you did. Now I will tell them we bought 18 guns, we bought 24 tanks. For heaven's sake, we used them. I reduced poverty from 34 to 17%.
Why do you think Americans care about it? Look, I don't think that any member of Congress voted for a nickel out of the 20 billion because of your economy or poverty. I mean, we let the whole continent of Africa go. So Americans in general didn't pay attention to it. They didn't care about it. Okay. What they all want to hear is, what do we have to change so our money is used, in a positive way? Protect Americans from terrorism, from radical Islam, Al-Qaeda. Who's going to do that for us?
All that I'm saying is, I have certain credentials of the past. I need to come again, and I need to be supported, not overtly, but in a covert manner, that we win again.
I have to tell you, we've known each other a long time, but it is very, very, very hard to believe.
Okay. There was no complicity.
No, that at some level, I'm just saying, at some level, okay.
There was somebody new.
Somebody knew something.
You tell me,
it's just so hard to believe.
When you say that you know me so well, tell me, I'm looking into your eyes when I say I didn't know it. Do you mistrust me?
I think you didn't know it, but I would also think, that as the leader of the country, you would have known there were some bad actors who could have done this kind of thing, who could have been, complicit in this, and that you probably, for whatever reasons, didn't find it a priority to take care of the bad actors.
The Americans don't understand anything. Fighting against terrorism and extremism is not a very easy job. Pakistan has suffered casualties. The West tends to ignore this.
Sir, let's forget about America for a second. We used to support these Taliban groups. When you came into power, you were the first one to put a stop to that. You did that, right?
No, I think one has to understand the entire developments, historical perspective. Pakistan had recognized the Taliban in our own geostrategic interest. We always used to have our forces oriented towards the east against India. In 1990s, as time progressed, India started having tremendous influence in Afghanistan, creating a threat on our western borders. So it was in our interest to eliminate this. To counter that, we started supporting warlords from the tribal region who happened to be Taliban. They were trained and armed and sent into Afghanistan to fight. So this is what happened. The circumstances led to it. Benazir supported Taliban, Nawaz Sharif supported Taliban. Now I come on the scene. I continued following that. However, I must clarify, if we were supporting them, that doesn't mean that we want Talibanization of Pakistan. That is not the case. Never did Pakistan want the Taliban views on religion to be in Pakistan.
Well, that's exactly what ended up happening.
This is what the people of Pakistan must understand. Because they don't even understand, they even challenge, why are we behaving like this in 1990s or 1980s? The situation demanded it. It's easy to talk with hindsight. It's not easy when you are at that moment taking a decision.
Sir, would you ever support the militant groups again?
We should realize that if we have war against India, Pakistan has to take its own countermeasures to safeguard its own security, and that may be running counter to our strategy or war against Al-Qaeda and Taliban.
Straight from the horse's mouth. I had tried hard to ignore what others had said.
Musharraf and his generals concocted this policy, which was effectively designed to have it both ways. Contain militant groups within Pakistan, try and placate the Americans, but retain them in reserve as a possible future option for Pakistani youth, either in India or in Afghanistan.
This is what we have learned from our history. This is an old tradition that whenever you create a militant for achieving some political objectives, the militant get out of your control.
As a result of that, you have seen how much we have suffered. And every day you find there is a terror attack on various targets in Pakistan. Suicide bombing, roadside bombings, blast, and other terror acts against the innocent people of Pakistan.
The polling booths are in place, the ballot papers have arrived. The final political rallies have been held, and now all the candidates can do is wait.
Imran Khan is converting the middle class Taliban politics.
यार मुशर्रफ को वोट दो ना यार। देंगे बिल्कुल देंगे मुशर्रफ को वोट देंगे। मेरा बच चले तो मैं इनको गोलियों से बम बांध के इनकी फैमिली को उड़ा दूं।
It had been over a year and a half, and I still had no one to vote for. Elections were only 2 months away. How could anyone take these candidates seriously? Either they were paying lip service about being tough on militancy, or they were making excuses on behalf of the terrorist groups. It was just more of the same rhetoric our previous leaders had fed us. My country had become a shell of its former self, and to not point fingers at terrorists was insane to me. And yet, many in my country didn't see things this way. What was it that I wasn't getting?
जब ये दहशतगर्दी का जंग शुरू हो गया तो ऊपर से बमबारियां होती जेट तैयारों से या ड्रोन हमलों से, ये सब बच्चे औरतें घरों से निकलते थे कि दरख्तों के नीचे बैठते थे। बमबारी से सारे मकान हमारे गिरे हुए, रोड हमारा नहीं है, सब कुछ हमारा बर्बाद हो गया। कोई भी हुकूमत आया तो हमारे लिए कुछ नहीं किया, न हमारा बिजली, न वहाँ रोड, न स्कूल। बनस्बत दिए तालिबानों ने कम से कम ये गरीब आवाम को दिल इसलिए जीता कि वो फ्री में जो बच्चों को पढ़ाने के लिए मदरसों को आबाद किया, रास्तों को बनाया, तो ये चीज़ें उन्होंने की है, बेहतर की।
अच्छा, मैं मानता हूँ कि हो सकता है तालिबान ने अच्छे नेक काम किए हों आपके गांव में, लेकिन आप देखें आपके गांव के बाहर उन्होंने क्या हरकतें की हुई हैं। मतलब आप देखें उन्होंने हर जगह दहशत फैलाई हुई है, बमबारी हो रही है, मासूम लोग मारे जा रहे हैं, मुसलमान मारे जा रहे हैं। तो ये कैसे आप समझ सकते हैं कि ये अच्छी ग्रुप हो तालिबान?
उसमें अगर 100% उसके बातों से मैं मुतफिक नहीं था या कुछ चीज़ें उसमें अगर खामियां थी, लेकिन हमारे लिए एक गरीब आदमी के लिए तो अमन था।
I felt overwhelmingly sad. Both Kareem and I had to make some pretty difficult choices just to get by. He was willing to back the Taliban, and up until recently, I was willing to support a military dictator.
उसमें अगर 100% उसके बातों से मैं अगर हुकूमत हमारे अवाम को अपना सहूलत दे, अपना हक दे, तो कोई इस तरफ तालिबानों की तरफ नज़र भी नहीं रखेंगे, उस तरफ सपोर्ट भी नहीं करेंगे।
Exactly. And if I felt safe, I would never even look to a dictator.
I will go back to Pakistan.
But this is what we always did. And maybe the fault was with us. We never gave democracy a chance to grow. This was the first time we were going from one democratically elected government to another. So maybe it was time for me to have some faith in our fledgling democracy. And so I decided, begrudgingly and with great embarrassment, to stick with the devil I know.
ये भी आउट, ये फिर वो मिस किया मेरे ख्याल में, कैच मिस किया करीब से
शुरू हुआ मेरे ख्याल में। अच्छा, कौन बैटिंग कर रहे हैं? साउथ अफ्रीका 76 for 2.
So you must be excited, no, to go back home. You must be excited to go back home.
Well, excited as well as apprehensive, mixture of feelings. Mixture of feelings. क्या होना है उधर? जितना अननोन चीज़ें होती हैं उतनी आदमी अनश्योर होता है, एप्रीहेंसिव होता है।
All three. All right, we're all set.
All these things work out in the end.
15 days and 15 days.
What just happened?
Oh, so President Musharraf, the courts provided relief and gave pre-arrest bail. So this is a great achievement, great good milestone. It shows that justice, there is a rule of law in Pakistan. So we are in good shape.
So it's out for you.
That clearly ensures that President Musharraf, on his return to Pakistan, will not be taken into custody.
Sir, congratulations. Yeah, I think that's a good beginning. Very good. That's a good moment from the Umrah.
On the day of the performing Umrah.
Women, here is the board. Last favors needed, sir. You don't need to die, sir.
Sheriff तेरे जान से बेशुमार बेशुमार Sheriff तेरे जान से बेशुमार.
This flight has turned into a campaign rally for Pervez Musharraf. He's making his way through the aisles now, greeting supporters. But this homecoming is a considerable gamble, and he knows he'll be a target as soon as this plane touches down.
If you will keep on sitting, you will be able to see Mr. President. He will be with you, please.
I've always been longing to go back. It was always on my mind. When one is not sure under what conditions you should go back, when you should go back, I believe in pending the decision. Let it, the decision will come itself. Okay. It appears. And now it just appeared. Now this is the time. Let's go.
साबिक सदर परवेज मुशर्रफ 4 साल से जायद के अरसे की खुद साख्ता दिला रखने के बाद अब पाकिस्तान पहुंच गए हैं और उनका तैयारा लैंड कर गया है।
Sir, congratulations, you're back in your homeland, mashallah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. मैं आज आ गया हूँ। लोग कहते थे मैं नहीं आऊँगा। आ गए वो लोग।
आप सवाल करें मैं जवाब दूँ।
बैठ के भाई बैठ के भाई बैठ जाओ यार।
एक सेकंड मैं इधर
भाई बैठ जाओ सर जी।
एक सेकंड बैठे मैं कोई जवाब नहीं दे रहा हूँ। बैठे ठीक है 1 मिनट। आई थिंक ये खपना मत है ना, वरना कोई बेकार है, ये कॉन्फ्रेंस बेकार हो जाएगी। आराम आराम से करें जैसे बैठेगा।
आपसे गलतियां हुई हैं तो आप इन गलतियों का अजाला कैसे करेंगे? जो लोग आपसे नाराज़ हैं उनको किस ट्रेजेडी के साथ, किस तरीके के साथ उनको राज़ी करेंगे?
देखें, मैंने इस मुल्क को मैं आसमान की तरफ ले जा रहा था, तो मुझे कोई ये शर्म नहीं है कि मैं छुपता फिरूंगा अब मैं क्यों आ रहा हूँ। मैं इसलिए आ रहा हूँ कि वही चीज़ जो मैं पाकिस्तान छोड़कर गया था वो पाकिस्तान कहाँ गया है, तो मैं तो इसको ठीक करने आया हूँ, मैं अपने लिए नहीं आया। हाँ जी
जनाब, मैं आजिज जमाली हूँ, एयरवाइज से मेरा ताल्लुक है। कराची के जर्नलिस्ट पब्लिक भी वाकिफ है कि आपकी इमरजेंसी में 200 से ज़्यादा सहाफ़ी जेलों में गए थे, बेंगलुरु भी शामिल था। मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि कब गए थे सर? जब आपने इमरजेंसी लगाई थी 2
यार भाई बैठ जाओ यार, बैठे हैं जो यार।
चैनल्स को बंद करवाया था उस ज़माने में, आपने जस्टिस इफ्तिखार मोहम्मद चौधरी को नजरबंद करवाया था, तो ये फैसला आपका सही था या गलत था उनको जजों को जेलों में डालना?
पहली चीज तो है ये सरासर गलत बात है, मैंने किसी को नजरबंद नहीं किया था। ओके, और जेलों में आखिर में तो आपने कह दिया जेलों में डालना ही, ये किसने कहा? किसको जेल में डाला? वो घर में थे, अपने अपने घरों में आराम से बैठे हुए थे, उनको पूरी फ्रीडम थी, जहां भी जाएं, बच्चे जहां जाइए। तब बिल्कुल गलत है कि अगर उनको कहा गया उनको नजरबंद किया गया, एब्सोल्युटली बेसलेस रॉन्ग। ठीक है, बार्ब वायर लगे थे क्योंकि लोग हजूम उधर आ रहा था उनको रोकने के लिए, और लोकल लेवल पे वो जो वहाँ रेंजर या पुलिस वाले थे उन लोगों ने ये एक्शन लिया।
ओके, थैंक यू।
परवेज़ मुशर्रफ कल अदालत में पेश होंगे और अगर अदालत ने ये तय किया कि परवेज़ मुशर्रफ गद्दार हैं तो उनको सज़ाए मौत होगी।
कल सुबह कोर्ट में जा रहा हूँ, पहली दफ़ा कोर्ट में इन माई लाइफ। इन फैक्ट आई हैव नेवर बीन इन अ कोर्ट।
इतने बहादुर हो ना तो नीचे आ जाओ। हमारी 4 औरतें बस है इनके लिए कि काले कोट और काली टाई क्या है।
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming and doing me this honor of your company. It brings back very nostalgic memories of my association with all of you. And I'm very glad to see that you all are looking younger than what I am. मैंने अभी इंटरव्यू दिया वुड ब्लिट्जर को, तो वो उसने पूछा how did I feel when I went to the high court में. And when the judge came, I had to stand up, and I kept standing. Pehli cheez, first reaction, humiliation, insult. I felt a little नहीं, I felt small. कि यार ये इसके सामने मैं खड़ा हूँ. So I felt bad. But then while I was standing, I started thinking. And I started thinking, मैंने कहा ये मैं हमेशा कहता रहा हूँ कि law, everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Yes. If really it is that, then I have to be standing it. And then I thought, it's not this man for whom I am standing. It's the law. Yes.
A few days later, judges of the Islamabad High Court rescinded Musharraf's bail and placed him under house arrest. He was disqualified from the election. Our 2013 election had the highest voter turnout in history. And since I was old enough and wasn't living under some coup, I got to vote for the first time in my life. The winner, Nawaz Sharif. Sir, thank you so much again for bringing me.
He is under detention, and that residence has been converted into a sub-jail. ये सारे रेंजर्स वाले गार्ड्स हैं सारी
I'm meeting you after quite a long time. Oh.
I'm so happy to see you. Yeah. Thank you again. Sorry I keep on coming and disturbing. No.
Top of the mind.
Yeah,
Actually, it will be too expensive for me to buy.
Yeah.
I haven't bought. Frankly, I haven't. Khushbu ke kuch kiya.
Wow.
I think on the political side, I thought that I could mobilize public, making them remember the old days. I did not succeed. Or maybe I may be a failure as a politician. But no regrets. These are the ups and downs of destiny. Nobody knows where destiny will take you. So I am very proud of the fact that and I am very glad and I am thankful to Allah that He took me from very middle class background and made me the chief of army staff, and then everything in Pakistan, the prime minister, the president. So what more do I want from Allah?
I thought back to the night Musharraf took power in 1999.
This is not martial law, only another path towards democracy. The armed forces have no intention to stay in charge any longer than is absolutely necessary to pave the way for true democracy to flourish in Pakistan.
As far as I can remember, for better or worse, I had put my faith in Musharraf. I sacrificed my right to vote in favor of security. But when I voted for the first time, I realized just how much I was giving up. Several years later, was there corruption? Yes. Was it still dangerous? Yes. But for what it's worth, our Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, started pushing for minority rights. Imagine that. Furthermore, he couldn't abuse power like the last time he was in office. There was too strong of an opposition. And guess what? I voted for that opposition. So maybe, in its own way, democracy is taking root in Pakistan. Insha'Allah. Besides, all democracies have issues.
ਤੇ ਖਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਚਿਕਨ ਦੀ ਬੋਟੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖਮੀਰ ਦੀ ਰੋਟੀ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਚਾਹੇ ਚਿਕਨ ਤੋਂ ਮਹਿੰਗੀ ਦਾਲ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਕਾਏ ਆਲੂ ਅੰਡੇ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾਣੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨੇ ਗੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਖਾਵਾਂਗਾ ਚਿਕਨ ਦੀ ਬੋਟੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖਮੀਰ ਦੀ ਰੋਟੀ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਚਾਹੇ ਚਿਕਨ ਤੋਂ ਮਹਿੰਗੀ ਦਾਲ ਦੀ ਉਮੰਗੇ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਬੈਗ ਰੋਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਫ ਦੀ ਬੋਲਤੀ ਵੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਨਾ ਗੱਜਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਪਲੀ ਪਤੰਗੇ ਸਿਜ ਖਾਨ ਦੀ ਆਖਰੀ ਉਮੰਗੇ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਬੈਗ ਰੋਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਫ ਦੀ ਬੋਲਤੀ ਵੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਾਤਰੀ ਬਣਿਆ ਨਵਾਬੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀਰੋ ਅਜਮਲ ਕਸਾਬੇ ਮੁੱਲਾ ਨਸਿਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿਜਾਬੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਬਦੁਲ ਸਲਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਦਾ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਕਾਏ ਆਲੂ ਅੰਡੇ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾਣੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨੇ ਗੰਦੇ लग गया जैके ब्लैक वाटर दी नहीं कोई टेंशन इत्थे अंदरों ही होंदे अटैके जिवें मर्जी पका लो रोटी ओ तवे तो रहिंदी है छोटी जिथे चुन चुन मारन डाकू उत्थे पुलिस दी चोरी नूं फड़दा ही कोई नहीं मैं ते खावांगा चिकन दी बोटी ओदे नाल खमीर दी रोटी भावें हो चाहे चिकन तो महंगी दाल